Hi, and welcome to the Real with Shy Power Pack series, where I bring to you 50 amazing business experts. Today, I have with me the best selling author of 8 amazing books and a popular contributor at Harvard Business Review and Forbes, Mr. Ron Carucci. Welcome, Mr. Carucci.
Chai, great to be with you. Thanks so much. Call me Ron. Mm.
Sure. Well, Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Ron Carucci? And give us a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah. I am the managing partner and co-founder of a firm called Navalent. We're a boutique consulting firm that spends our days accompanying leaders on all kinds of transformational journeys. Leaders who have found themselves stuck in a ditch somehow in their organization, or strategically unsure of themselves, or culturally not where they want their leaders to be with them, or organizationally misaligned to their goals and dreams. So our job is to help construct a journey for them to find their way out of that place, being stuck, or somehow not being able to reach the aspirations they've set, and help them get there.
Wow, that's amazing. So tell us about the journey from startup to scale up of a young business.
So, gosh, so many folks out there, with great ideas and great solutions that other people would want. We all know that 80% of startups fail in their first year and a half. And it's unfortunate because so much of that failure is unnecessary. But so few entrepreneurs understand that it's not just about having a good idea, or even not just about finding a market that wants it. Even at the smallest stages of your beginnings, whether you're just a few people or you're in your garage or your basement, your business still requires identity. It still requires, some boundaries on it. And so often entrepreneurs are reluctant to put boundaries on their aspirations. They want to serve everybody, say yes to everybody, make as much money as they can, and they often burn out in a flash in the pan because they haven't been very clear on what customers will you serve, what customers won't you serve. There's, regardless of whatever business you're in, there's somebody else doing it, up the street. And so if you can't answer the question, why would somebody who wants what you do pick you over them? And if you don't know what that is, what differentiates you from others doing what you do, what makes you distinctive, you can't make investment choices. You can't make trade-offs. You can't separate the important work from the necessary work. And so, making sure that you've carved out your identity and have the discipline to stick to it, which means there are some customers you're going to say no to. And then knowing how to organize your work, right? Knowing how to, invest in the work that feeds those distinctions and maximize the efficiency of the work that doesn't, and see them as different. Not all work is created equal, right? But too often you see startups that go from 3 people to 8 people to 30 people to 50 people, and it's like a bunch of ants in an anthill. They're just all swirling, or all the little kids on the soccer field just follow the ball, right? They don't stay in their positions. And an entrepreneur's job is from early on to get people in the right swim lanes and keep the work different. And then, of course, the last one is leadership. If you don't scale the ability for people below you to lead, and all of the decisions and all the problem solving and all the answers, if all roads lead to you for that, then the problem is you're not scaling leadership, right? And so the whole operation becomes overly dependent on you. So strategic identity, organization, and leadership are the 3 things that every entrepreneur has to think about from the very earliest moments of their business. Too many of them think, well, we're too small for that stuff. That's for big organizations. And my pushback is, no, that's how organizations get big, because they do them early.
Wow, that's amazing. There's a lot to take in. That's some powerful stuff. So let's talk about leadership. Why more than 50% of leaders fail within their first 18 months of appointment?
Well, so that's the result of we did a 10-year study for my book, Rising to Power, to find out why that was the case. It's been true for more than 20 years. We've known that. Of course, all the recruiters think it's great because they just get to refill the orders. But everybody else has a lot of wasted careers and a lot of wasted talent. And too many leaders on their rise to bigger jobs or broader positions, or too many entrepreneurs on their rise to a bigger reach, don't realize what it takes to be successful. And so there are some really common pitfalls that cause leaders to misjudge the journey of influence, misjudge the journey of a bigger job or bigger responsibilities. And so they fail. And because they weren't prepared, they weren't given the right information, or the right tools, or the right coaching on the way up to succeed.
Okay, what would be the most common mistake or the biggest mistake, in your opinion, that leaders make that makes them fail?
Well, I don't know that there's so many. One of the painful things we discovered in our study, Chai, was how many obstacles organizations put in the way of leaders on their way up. Here's a small example. So when we're picking leaders for certain roles, we still use the most unreliable devices to make our decisions. We use the resume and we use the interview. The two things we know are the least predictive of success, but we still use them anyway. And in those conversations with that resume, we say things like, wow, look at these great technologies you've built before in your career. That's what we need. Or, my gosh, you've built such powerful brands. That's exactly what we want you to do here. Or, goodness, you've turned around a whole shipping and logistics and supply chain. We sure need that here. And in those messages of tying their past successes to your needs, you've given them permission to ignore your context. You said, you have a recipe and a formula. We want you to slap that recipe on us. And so, of course, with this mythical mandate to come and repeat their past successes, they come in and start slapping. And we've all seen it happen. We've all watched somebody enter a new role and become an irritant because they start talking about, well, here's how we did it last time. Here's how I did it at my last job. And they're not reading the tea leaves. They're failing to understand the context. They're failing to understand how they have to adapt their ideas and their thinking to the environment around them. It's not just that they're there to impose change. They have to change themselves as well. But you've set them up to fail because you told them that wasn't necessary. You said, I want the formula you have. And so right from the very beginning, we insert the seeds of failure into people's journeys of ascent because we told them that they just have to repeat what they've done before, which of course is not possible, right?
Interesting. I have a question about that, but I kind of want to divert a little into entrepreneurship and self-made leaders such as network marketers. How can that apply to them? Or what would be their part?
I think that people who are, you have people who are trying to help others tell their story, right? There's lots of ways to do that. People in the digital marketing space, there's a variety of tools in the toolkit, right? That the challenge for them is that most of the world doesn't understand the tools, right? Whether it's SEO or social media or the use of content or what you're doing, podcasting or blogging or any variety of tools that broaden someone's digital footprint and digital space in the world. Especially, we all know we're speaking into a painfully cluttered world with a lot of noise and a lot of people saying the same stuff. How do you set yourself apart, or how do you help your clients set themselves apart? Well, the same is true for the marketers. There's no one size fits all. If you think I have my SEO, website optimization, content marketing, email, MailChimp, list building formula that I know can work for everybody, you're going to hurt people, right? Because, of the 20 things in that toolkit, no single person can do all of them anyway. And, depending on what the person you're marketing for is trying to accomplish, you have to figure out what combination of those things will work for them and the people they're serving. And if you don't do that work and you just come in with your shtick, you're going to network market them out of business.
I agree. So going back to what you were talking about previously about setting people up for failure, isn't it human nature to resort to the memory of something that we achieved to be able to fuel ourselves to tackle a new task or endeavor?
It's a great question, Shai, and it is human nature. We all want to reach back for what we've done before because what's ahead of us is scary, right? We really haven't done it before, and so looking at it through the lens of familiarity is much more comforting than looking at it through the lens of unfamiliarity. The trick is both are true, right? There is probably some wisdom, some insight, some perspective, some learnings from our past experiences that applies here, but is also a new context. So the real question is, how do I take that wisdom? How do I take that experiences, those lessons, even the parts that didn't go well, because there had to be some of those, right? How do I adapt those to this context? How do I have to change and fit just enough? I don't have to go native and become like one of them, but I have to adapt just enough so I build trust and credibility with them so that my wisdom makes sense to them, so that we can all embrace the wisdom together, not just me impose it on them. So it's a tricky process. It's not only past experiences or only precedent, but it's a blend of both. And that's what great contextual leaders do. They're contextually intelligent enough to know how to adapt their wisdom from the past and how to read what they have not yet done and blend them.
Beautiful. I really like that. So let's talk about uncovering the 4 differentiating capabilities that set successful leaders apart.
So that was the first one, reading context, right? So they know how to be curious and adapt and ask questions, not just impose. The second one was breadth. So we live in a fragmented world. We live in a divided world. We live in a world of echo chambers. In organizations, pieces pull apart. Mitosis is a natural growing part. And as fragmentation happens, people go into silos. Entrepreneurs have their own little niches. We're a naturally fragmenting world. People want to be in familiarity. Great leaders build bridges. Great leaders know how to take the parts and make it a whole. So rather than perpetuating the silos or perpetuating the fragments, they can see the whole, not just the sum of the parts. And they create connections. They build bridges where there's differences. They know how to bring people together into a cohesive whole and create coherence. The third was choice. So too often leaders, contrary to popular belief about how they abuse power, many leaders abandon power. They're more likely to abuse power by not using it at all than using it for self-interest. And they're afraid to disappoint people. So they say yes too often. They want to please them. They want to win popularity. They want to say what's needed. But sometimes leadership is being able to disappoint people at a rate they can absorb, and that means saying no. It means saying no to even great ideas, so that the ideas you've already said yes to can prevail. But if you dole out way too many yeses and you dilute the precious resources that you have, and more importantly, the one most important resource you have is focus, people's ability to stay focused. If you spread that too thin, you just introduce mediocrity. So these leaders could make hard choices and trade-offs and say no. And the last one, not surprisingly, was connection. These people build phenomenal relationships of trust and credibility with the people who are their bosses or their peers, their direct reports, all around them. These are the people, and we've all seen them. You've seen them lots, Chai. They're the ones everybody wants to be around them. And you know that if you're around them, you'll get better. You'll learn. You know that your well-being is important to them. And the interesting thing about these leaders was when they prioritized their networking or prioritized their relationship building, they prioritized it by those they could contribute to, not those they could get something from. So they were more on the lookout for places where they could contribute and help others succeed than they were on people who could help them. So context, breadth, choice, connection. 4 very hard things. And remember, the key thing was the exemplars were good at all of them. So if you were good at only 3 of those, you're still in the failure group. So now, that sounds like a tall order, but the great news is you can learn all those. You can start early in your career to learn them, and then by the time you need them for a broader perch, you're ready.
Wow. So I'm going to ask you a question about the third quality. So we live in an age where being an influencer has become the thing. So how does one balance between becoming that influencer, the likes, especially on social media, the likes, the follows, and tend to please our customers and audience, versus becoming that strong, well-rounded, successful leader?
Well, I think you just answered the question, Shai, by doing that. I think what's so agonizing to me is we've trained a generation of people that to believe you can be an overnight success. And we all know the truth is it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. And we've made a generation of young people addicted to approval ratings, and the vanity metrics, really, of likes and followers and page views, and that mean nothing. They really mean nothing, because you're hardly being influential at all. You're being popular. And being popular and being influential are very different things. Notoriety is not influence. People wanting to hear what you have to say because you're saying it and because it applies to them. You're not influential until they apply it. So just because they admire you, or they follow you, or they put a thumbs up on your page, doesn't mean you're influencing them. It just means they know who you are. When you hear stories of people applying your ideas, or wanting to emulate not you or your popularity, but emulate your ideas, your philosophies, your beliefs, your actions, that's when you're being influential. And I'd rather have 5 of those than 1 million people admire me. But you have to know, but it requires self-honesty. It requires, what the words you said, Chai, being a disciplined leader of others and influential. That's what you have to want. But too many people say they want that, but what they really want is the popularity. They want the easy success and fame. So just be honest about what you want. If you want fame and notoriety and popularity, great. Just get that. Just don't tell people it's influential. If you want influence, don't try and count. Being influenced means you're helping people, not counting people. Right? So if all you're doing is counting things, then just count them and enjoy that metric. But you should not confuse widespread visibility with influence. They're not the same thing.
Wow, that's powerful. I agree. Well said. So let's talk about your book, Rising to Power.
Yeah. So when the journey of it began with that statistic of more than half of leaders failing, and discovering that in a very painful personal way, somebody that I had worked with in one of our transformational projects for my firm had distinguished himself. People assumed he was going places in his career. He was smart, likable, caring, thoughtful, had good ideas. And so when at the end of the transformation, when he was given the chance to take on a bigger role, nobody was shocked. Everybody thought, oh, well, of course. So we all assumed his meteoric rise was beginning. And about 9 months after we had left, I saw him in my caller ID, and I assumed, oh, he's calling to check in and say hi. And he was calling to tell me that he'd been fired. And of course, we were shocked. I just had no words. But then 2 hours later, after my call with him, the CEO, who was also my client, called to tell me they had to let him go. And he was angry. And more than subtly inferring that some of the reason for his failure was mine, for not having better prepared him. And that hurt. That was personal. And I said, how could we have misjudged his potential so horrifically? Can I come back in and sniff around? Can I come back and look in to see where I could have done better? And that investigation is what led to our 10-year study, because we learned that he was just another statistic. This kind of carnage was happening all over the place. People who are seen as bright, promising, young, high potential leaders were being put into positions and set up to fail by the day. And it was utterly unacceptable to me. I thought, we can do better. This is horrific. This is cruel. We can do a better job preparing them. And so when we wrote the book, I wanted to uncover every landmine I could find. I wanted to uncover every possible missed step on the way up. And then the great news, what the research revealed was, I assume we would learn what was causing the failure. But the obvious question is, well, if half of them are actually sticking the landing, if half of them are actually making it and thriving once in a broad approach, what were they doing? And it was those 4 patterns that we just talked about that we discovered. So not only did we discover what was killing the rise, but we were also able to reveal, here's what prevents you from misstepping and derailing, and causes you to succeed once you're there. So it was an exciting and thrilling study, and it was a thrill to write the book. And the most gratifying part of it has been the emails we get that tell us the careers we've saved, or the choices we've helped people make that they might not have otherwise made, that have allowed them to be successful in the roles that they've taken on, where they might have otherwise misstepped.
Wow. So if there was one thing, one nugget, because I'm trying to make sure that I'm sensitive to your time.
Mhm.
I know that you're pressed for time today, but if there was one nugget, just one powerful thing that you could give our audience to take into 2019, what would that be?
It's a piece of advice that my mentor gave me 30 years ago, and she's still my mentor today. She's still alive, well, and kicking my butt. She said to me, "Nothing in life is irrevocable except death." And I would so want people to be less afraid of their own voice, to be less apprehensive about trying. You do get do-overs. There's some things you don't get do-overs for, but you get do-overs. So if you skin your knees, you get up and you try again. But so often I see people wanting truly to make a difference, to be influential, to try a new version of their own voice, or a new version of their own talents, but reticent to do so. They have the tapes in their head that say nobody will like it, you'll fail, you look foolish, you're not that good at it. Everybody else is better. They do the comparison things, and all that narrative paralyzes them. And you know what? If it doesn't go well, you do it again. Like you only do one of the rare. If you die, you're done. But if it doesn't kill you, we've changed a generation of young people to believe that what doesn't kill you makes you weaker, and that's just not true. If you skin your knees, it will make you better. It will. Not skinning your knees and avoiding it doesn't make you better. Makes you lucky, but it doesn't make you better.
Wow, that's powerful. I agree 100%. Well, Ron, I know that you have to go. It has been amazing. I have learned so much from you, and I know that everyone who will listen to this interview will just be charged for this year. Thank you again for fitting us in and really just sharing all of your wisdom. And guys, please go buy this book, Rising to Power. Powerful book. It will change your life. All right, Ron. Hope to catch up with you sometime soon. Bye.
Chai, Chai, it's been a great pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Best to you in 2019 as well.
Thanks.